so then you could say, well, that makes it appear as though parenting isn't that relevant in relationship to the development of temperament. But you could also suggest something else. You could suggest that if parenting is occurring properly, the effect of the shared environment should be very close to zero. And the reason for that is that you establish an individual relationship with each child. And the environment is actually a microenvironment that's composed of your observations of your child and that specific child's interaction with you. And to some degree, if there's a shared environment, that means that you're enforcing the same principles on every child. And so my suspicions are, although I don't know this because, and the research hasn't been done, that in bad families there's a shared environmental effect, but in good families that minimizes. And so that lets the child's biological predisposition roughly manifest itself with support and in some positive manner. Well, I don't want to extend the analogy too far, but you could imagine that if, and this is what this film proposes, is that if you aim properly in relationship to your child, what you're trying to do is to establish an individual relationship and to allow them to move towards whatever their particular expression of individuality happens to be. And that's, well, that would be the same as allowing nature to take its course in some sense, at least nature in its positive guise, and that's exactly what happens here. Now, the other thing that happens, of course, is that the cricket, for reasons that aren't clear precisely, is knighted by the blue fairy and serves as Pinocchio's conscience, although he isn't very good at it, which is a very peculiar thing and quite a marked point that the film is making, that conscience actually has something to learn too. And there's actually a Freudian element to that, you know, because Freud thought of the superego as the internalization, roughly speaking, of the father. And it could be very severe, the superego, so it could be like a really strict father, really tyrannical father inside your head. Although I think it's better to think about the superego as the internalized representation of society at large, mediated to some degree through your parents, because it's not as if your father, even assuming he's tyrannical, is the inventor of all those tyrannical rules. He's the propagator of them, but he's actually a proxy voice, even if it's just for the harsh side of society. He's a proxy voice for society, and because we're social creatures, the utility of having an internal social voice to guide you, although again you seem to be able to follow it or not follow it, which I also find spectacularly interesting, because obviously if it was an unerring guide you could just follow it, and if it was an unerring guide, well, you wouldn't need free will either, because you could just act out the dictates of this internal representation, and that isn't what you do.